Well, we're coming to the end of our programme here today, but as ever, we've always got a special guest when we can at this time of our broadcast. Now, France's Socialist Party has found its candidate. That's former Education Minister Benoit Hamon, who defeated his rival Manuel Valls almost 60-40 in yesterday's second round as the Socialist of the Socialist primaries. Now, Hamon, who's considered to represent the true left of the left wing, one could say, will now have to regroup his party ahead of the election campaign to take on his three main rivals for the French presidency. Now, to list those: independent Emmanuel Macron and his En Marche movement, François Fillon for the right-wing Républicain, and Marine Le Pen from the far-right Front National. Now, in Live on Live this Monday, following Hamon's victory, I'm joined by Bruno Jeanbart, the Director of Polling, political analyst at Opinion Way here in Paris. Bruno, you're very welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
Now, the polls. The last 18 months has seen pollsters around the world. We're going to look let's just say your profession itself. The last 18 months has seen pollsters around the world being lambasted for getting the figures wrong, specifically with Brexit and Donald Trump's victory. But Hamon was very much the outsider in this race for the socialist ticket, but he beat Manuel Valls with 58.6% to 41.3%. Now, just let us know, are France's pollsters getting things right?
Well, it's I would say we know in a few weeks with the presidential election. For the primaries, we have to be very careful about what we have done on the polls because it's new elections for us in France. It's only the third primary. The first one was only in 2011, so it's a specific election, most difficult to really forecast. But if you look at the last two presidential elections, the forecasts were pretty good. So I hope it's going to be the same this year, but we'll see. We know that we are facing a lot of challenges as pollster now in this new world. So
indeed, well, you're very much under the light. You're under pressure here. I'm just in your profession as it stands now, especially with the events of, say, since June, Brexit, and now since November with Donald Trump's victory. Are there more stringent checks being put in place ahead of this year's elections for coming up with the right figures compared to last elections or previous elections?
Yes, of course, and we have a specific program in France for many years now, which is how to evaluate the level of votes of the National Front. We know that during a long time, people didn't really want to say to the pollster that they were voting for them. It seems it's better now with Marine Le Pen. It's easier. It's much more easier than with her father. But we'll see. In the last European or regional election, the previous year, we were able to really evaluate pretty good how the level of votes for the National Front were. But we know that there's a lot of anger in the country, and it's always difficult to measure.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's just have a look at, as it stands now, you correct me if I'm wrong, but this is how I believe that it is in the race for winning the first round of the presidentials coming up in April. Le Pen stands in first place to get in, with at least, I think, 25% of the vote to get into the second round. François Fillon is behind in number two. Macron and his En Marche movement, he's the kind of the rebel or the rogue socialist former economics minister, is in third place. And now Hamon, because he is now the anointed socialist candidate, is in fourth place. In your opinion, what will Hamon's first move be to try and make an impact on those levels to get ahead?
Well, the first thing he has to do is try to gathering all the socialist voters, and it's difficult because most of them were pretty disappointed by the last 5 years and the policy of the government and of François Hollande. Some of them were disappointed and think that it was not enough on the left, and they are tempted by voting for Mélenchon, the far left candidate.
Far left,
and some others are pretty attracted by the center-left Macron candidate. So I think he has to try to gather all these voters and all his family to be able to be a good competitor in this election.
Indeed, just after he came down from the podium yesterday, he said he would definitely try and woo or serenade Jean-Luc Mélenchon and his France Insoumise, the people that are behind it, and of course the Green parties, kind of shunning and saying, well, let Valls and Macron maybe come up with their own cabal to get the centre-left into the Macron camp. But Emmanuel Macron himself, he must be quite happy with Manuel Valls' defeat. Because many of the Conservatives will now go to him. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, it's clear that it's a good news in some way for Emmanuel Macron because Hamon is much more on the left than Valls would have been, and so it's a better situation for him. But on the other hand, there's a danger for him, which is that now we know that Hamon will never withdraw for Macron. So it means that we will have three main candidates on the left. So if Macron wants to have a chance, he really has to be able to be much more than a left candidate.
Well, this is one question that I did want to ask you. I mean, as the race tightens up, as everything, when the campaigns get well underway for the primaries in April, can we in any way envisage any one candidate dropping out and encouraging their supporters to go behind another candidate if the polls are really failing?
I think for Hamon, it's not possible to really think about that.
But maybe for any of the others, maybe for, I mean, if Macron, for example, if he went back and Hamon came in front, would he say, well, better the Socialists, better the devil you know or have worked with in the past, seeing that they were both ministers in the former government?
I think Macron is the only one who could do that, but it's not the case for the moment because he's leading the race on the left side. So I think the most possible now that we can really predict is that there will be these three candidates in April.
Now, let's have a look at the Front National here. I mean, I remember this well. 15 years ago, France voted overwhelmingly in the second round presidentials for Jacques Chirac to prevent Front National, or National Front leader Jean-Marie Le Pen, from being elected. Now, the quote back then was, France has voted while holding its nose. Now, if there was a runoff today between François Fillon from Les Républicains and a far-right candidate, that's Marine Le Pen, Jean-Marie Le Pen's daughter, will the same happen this time around? Or has the success, let's just say, of populism across the globe given the far-right here in France more confidence to convince the electorate?
I'm pretty confident to say that it will happen again, but not in the same proportion that it was.
It was overwhelming. It was huge.
80%, 82%. Yeah. I think now we have about 60 or 65% who would vote for François Fillon. So it means that 35 or 40 would vote for Marine Le Pen. So it shows that it's still very far away for her to be elected and to have the majority on a runoff. But it shows also that she's improving and she's increasing. And but what we have seen last year in regional election, in the main region where the National Front are the strongest, on the north and on the southeast, they were leader after the first round, and they were defeated on the runoff very easily by the right candidate. So I think it would happen again.
Well, that was also because the Socialists put their weight behind the right-wing candidates back then. So I mean, there was still trade-offs happening.
Yes, but when you look at the research we are doing, we see that most of the socialist leaders they would prefer to vote for a right candidate than for the National Front, or to abstain.
Now let's look at the kind of mainstream right candidate. Since Penelope Gate, as we're calling it, that's the revelations that François Fillon's wife earned €500,000 over 5 years for supposedly rendering service to Fillon himself, but that's in doubt. Has his popularity taken a big hit?
Yes, for the moment his popularity is really is going down. But when you look at it, for the moment it's only on the left, and so I think that the main issue in this month will be to see if he's able to keep his bases and the right voters with him. If he's able to do that, he's still in good position to win this election.
Well, yet again, all to play for and all to wait and see coming up for those primaries in April. Bruno Jeanbart from Opinion Wave, thank you very much for being on the programme today.